What's up, guys? I'm the Nearsighted Gamer. Thanks for coming to see me. Welcome to episode 1 of Nearsighted Point of View, my gaming podcast where I talk about video games and what's going on in the world of video games and just things that I think are interesting or topics I think that need to be talked about regarding games, gaming, or just anything related to that sort of atmosphere. Today's focus is going to be on something that a lot of people have done before, but I know it's something that will get you to help you learn more about me. Since this is about video games, I'm going to talk about my video game history, what I started with, the first game I played, and how I got to the point I am now, and where I am in video games. But before I do that, I do want to let you know what I'm playing right now. Right now, I'm currently playing Dragon Ball FighterZ on PlayStation 4. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I've seen all of Dragon Ball Z. I watched that first, and then I went back and I watched all of Dragon Ball. Sadly, I did also watch Dragon Ball GT. Wasn't a fan of it like a lot of people, and I am up to date on Dragon Ball Super, and I'm really liking it. It's pretty cool. So you would think that I've played several Dragon Ball games. Dragon Ball fighting games would be my bread and butter. But no, I don't like the way that they tried to do. The majority of Dragon Ball fighting games were done in 3D, and that just never worked for me. There may have been games that got it right later on, but after the one I played, I didn't really want to play anymore. I know they would have to be in 3D in order to really get that full effect, because Dragon Ball fights are really known for how crazy and outlandish and they are. But I just didn't think that the way they did 3D was done good, or that they could be. But Dragon Ball FighterZ recently came out. Everyone saw the trailer at E3, was looking forward to it. It came out and it really did it right. I think that 2D is where it belongs as far as a Dragon Ball Fighter game. The team that did it is the same team behind Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue, which fits totally with the aesthetic. The game looks great and it's really fun. Now, am I good at it? Not really, but I'm not terrible. I've played fighting games before, so I know the general basics and all that, but I'm slowly getting a handle on how the gameplay is and what works. And if you give me maybe a couple of weeks or a month, I'll be where I think that I'm decent, but far from perfect, of course, because I'm not a master at fighting games. But that's what I'm playing. I was playing also Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch because I wanted a RPG for my Switch. I know Breath of the Wild's out there, but most people don't consider that an RPG. It just wasn't my deal. I like the typical JRPG type, or just something more along the lines of turn-based fighting is more my style. So I do want to get into I Am Setsuna and also Lost Sphere, which recently came out, but I cut that short. But I do plan on getting back to Xenoblade. The battle system in it is something that you have to work on and get used to. It's not your typical RPG fighting style, but I got a handle on it. But I'm going to come back to that. Currently, it's Dragon Ball FighterZ right now, and soon Bayonetta will be coming out. I'll be replaying that as well, and I want to get my hands on Monster Hunter World. Never played a Monster Hunter game, wanted to get into it, but it seems so complicated. This one seems to somewhat streamline the barrier to entry, so I think that maybe I'll be able to jump in there and give it a shot. It's also on PS4. Now, okay, my gaming history. My gaming history starts with pretty much everyone around my ages, a majority of people my generation, with the Nintendo Entertainment System. I got my Nintendo. I got the version with just Mario and Duck Hunt and the Zapper as well. And when I played it, it was it was fantastic. Playing your first video game ever at I'll just say 7 years old, I think. 7 years old, 5 to 7 years old. It was great. That Christmas, when everyone got a Nintendo and everybody was talking about Super Mario 1 like it was the newest Final Fantasy, all these secrets, all the abilities, what you're able to do, the fact that you were controlling a character on the TV screen with a controller in your hand, just that on its own was great. I mean, it was amazing. I can remember going to my cousin's house and him asking me, had I saved the princess? I was like, yes, I just did it. Accomplishing the feat of beating Super Mario Brothers, the first one, was a grand feat. And if you hadn't done it, you were kind of like, looked down upon, sort of. But it was amazing. Nothing like that on that level had ever happened. There had been Ataris. I had an Atari. I guess I had an Atari and I played it, but it wasn't it wasn't as big an impact as my Nintendo was, because when I had my Atari, I didn't really have anybody else to share the memories or the things that I was going through with. I would come home from school and, I do my homework and then I get to play my Atari. And I was playing Pac-Man and Combat. I can't remember. I think that's all the only games I had. No. I was actually one of the lucky ones that had the E.T. game. And again, not knowing anything about video games, but having seen the movie E.T., I was wondering, like, where's anything? That game made no sense. And later on, like, now, seeing how the game was supposed to be played, how were you expecting a 5-year-old to accomplish that? There was no way. I know I had the game. Maybe I rented it, because if I had it, I know I'd still have it around and it'd be some sort of a collector's item, because, a bunch of them were dumped somewhere. But my Atari was just me and Pac-Man and Combat and E.T., but it didn't have an effect like my Nintendo did. When I got my Nintendo, I was able to share memories, talk to other people about the game that I was playing and all that. And as time went on, I was renting other Nintendo games as well. The huge library of Nintendo games that existed was crazy. I was renting Punch Out, Mario 2, Mario 3, not Dragon Ball, Double Dragon, games like that. All the typical, like, there were just games flooding out, and going and renting games was one of the most, like, satisfying and, like, things I look forward to every weekend or whenever I would get to go, because you never knew what game you were going to find next. We didn't know what a game was about. All we had to go on was the box art and, like, maybe the back of the box. And if you had the instruction book in there, for some reason, you had that. So you had to make your best judgment. Mega Man was on Nintendo. I can remember playing Mega Man 2, and I can also remember playing Mega Man 3 and being like, I don't like it. So my Nintendo history was, like, insane. So many Nintendo games. Always renting those with my friends was great. Playing all night, ring a game and then having one of my friends stay over, or going to my dad's house and hanging out with my brothers, playing Nintendo, staying up all night, like, making memories and having fun like that. And then Super Nintendo came out, and I had a Super Nintendo for a short time, and so I played, like, Mario World. I didn't acquire any games because I didn't have it long enough, but my brother did. Like, I didn't live with my brother. Like, he lived with my dad. My parents weren't together. So I would have my games at my house, and I live with I'd go to my dad's house and play with all my brothers. So they had a Super Nintendo over there. So that was the extent of, the games that I played on Super Nintendo. I would play what they had. They had a Super Scope 6, which was like a big bazooka type control peripheral. Nintendo was doing things back then, man. Being creative even back then. And it was okay, apparently not okay enough to continue making games for, because it just did the pack where they had 6 games in it. I think 2 or 3 of them were worth it, but being, visually impaired, it didn't really grab me like it would, someone else who didn't really have a problem with their eyesight. So I made it through. That's always been a problem with me in games, having to sit so close to play to the TV to play and all that. But I made it through, and since that one focused on vision being decent, it really kind of hindered me from playing it. But I made it through. After that, I got a Game Boy. I did have a Game Boy, and Nintendo was just doing it again. It was like the greatest thing in the world. After having played all these awesome games, you were able to do so like anywhere. As long as you had a handful of AA batteries, you were good, man. You could play anywhere. And Nintendo knew what they were doing. They packaged their Game Boy with the video game version of crack, which was Tetris. Oh, Tetris was so much fun. So great. That ate up so many batteries on so many Game Boys. I played it. I had Faceball 2000 as well, which was okay. I didn't really get into the Mario Land games, or also, well, I didn't get into the Mario Land games, but I know that a lot of people like a couple of them. There's certain ones that they don't like, but I only had a handful of games on my Game Boy. I mainly played Tetris, and I also played Metroid 2 as well, which was weird because I didn't play the first Metroid. I was one of the people who avoided that. I actually avoided a lot of the main staples on Nintendo. I didn't play Metroid. I didn't play the original Zelda. I played Zelda 2, which weirdly was responsible for my likeness of RPGs, which is my favorite type of video game, which is weird. I only played it for 20 minutes, but the whole aspect of, searching, trying to find this thing, going on this vast quest, like the whole it didn't take long before the atmosphere of it all really jumped out at me. But those weren't ones I played. I didn't play. What else was known for on Nintendo? Those are the main two. Of course, in Mario 1, 2, and 3. 2, which shouldn't have existed. What the heck, man? I'm not a person who's in the Mario 2 camp. I don't think that it was interesting. Didn't beat it. Didn't give it the time of day. Mario 3 did beat. Of course, it's one of the greatest of all time. But I'm getting sidetracked. My Game Boy, loved it. Metroid 2, beat it. Felt accomplished because I can remember laying in bed and finally beating it. And I was like, yes, I finally did it. And I didn't have my Game Boy long. Through a series of events, I ended up not having it. So that is actually where my Nintendo history kind of ends or veers off. Because at this point, Sega had their Genesis out as well. And they'd had a Master System before that, but I was a Nintendo at that point. So I ended up with a Sega Genesis. So it went Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and I had a Game Boy. But then after my Super Nintendo ceased to exist, I ended up getting the Genesis. And I went that route. So there was the Nintendo route and the Genesis route. Sega does what Nintendo don't, that whole thing, the whole console wars. It was actually cool living through that because they were pretty cool. But I went the Genesis route, so then I started playing Sonic 1, 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, all the Castlevania Bloodlines, Altered Beast, all the games on Nintendo. Nintendo was not the games on Nintendo. I'm so sorry. The games on Sega. I went the Sega route, and then there was the Super Nintendo route. They both had Mortal Kombat. Sega had Blood. It was way better. ABACABB, Abacab. That was like what you got for, I think, the Blood Code on there. I don't know why that one sticks out, but yeah, I can remember playing Mortal Kombat for the first time and was like, oh, wow, like we can play this. And we could because there was no ESRB then. And Mortal Kombat was responsible for the birth of the ESRB. Because I can't believe that then every game was, kid friendly or whatever. But it was, any game could be played by anybody. There was no age restrictions. There was just if parents thought, well, you can't play this, then you couldn't play it. But there was no law saying that you couldn't do it until Mortal Kombat came out. and all the violence, the blood, the spinal ripping out, the setting on fire, the heads being chopped off, and stuff like that. We thought it was cool, of course, because we'd never seen anything like that. And of course, we weren't going to go out and try to do it. But, parents had issues, and so that came to be. And then there was a rating system. It was definitely put on some mature. And of course, Nintendo being Nintendo saying, no, we're not going to do that. Our Mortal Kombat's going to have sweat. So whenever you would hit a guy, you would knock buckets of sweat off of him. Like he was really getting into that fight. It's crazy. And after Genesis, where did I go next? Genesis, Super Nintendo, and I kind of rode that Genesis horse for a while. I may have been a Sega kid, I guess you could say. I had a Genesis, but I didn't get a Saturn or a Dreamcast. I wasn't doing that. And I didn't get a 64 either. My next console that I had was a PlayStation, so there was a pretty big jump. I knew I knew one person who had a 64, and I played it once, and that was a wrestling game. And I knew somebody who had a Saturn, but that was long after I was past that, and I already had a PlayStation. So jump from there, me and my memories of Sega and Genesis and all the console wars and playing all my games on Sega to PlayStation, which it was cool growing up in this time period because kids now, they have games and this game looks better than this game looks better. It's primarily about graphics and maybe slight mechanical tweaks and all that, but things were proceeding like crazy for us. So we went from 8-bit and games that looked like they looked on Nintendo to that jump to Super Nintendo style quality and Sega, and then to the jump to PlayStation. Also from cartridges to CDs. So we were like, CDs, oh, that's great. But the thing with CDs is loading times. We were like, loading? What's loading? Why is it taking so long? So we had to load the data from the CDs to the game. But it was so cool because that was such a graphical, not increase, but there's a different type, the different look. Sony PlayStation 95. Whew, that was a good year. Got my PlayStation. The RPGs, man, the RPGs. That was an RPG machine. Played Brave Fencer Musashi, Final Fantasy 7. 8 also existed. Didn't play it though. Didn't like it. 9, got it for my birthday from one of my friends. All the games that came out. There's so many more. So many more games. I'm not going to name all the games that there were that I played, but that's where I went. I had a PlayStation and played the crap out of it. So much. Tomb Raider, 1, 2, 3, so much in NFL Blitz. So much Blitz. Street Fighter, Alpha 3, the game. Went through 3 copies of that game. That was crazy. And so I got plenty of mileage out of my PlayStation. Loved it. It was my baby. And the cool thing is with the PlayStation, you had the audio cable, yellow, white, and red. And you would have to hook those into, like an audio hookup or some kind. You'd have to use that to you had to have a hookup in order to hook that to the TV. But the TV I had already had the hookup in the back for it. So I didn't need to use an adapter to hook it up. I just was able to hook it up straight to the TV. And I thought I was cool for that. Yeah, I was. And after that, PlayStation 2 came out. I was still on the PlayStation route. PlayStation 2 came out. First game I'm going to talk about, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes. That was the game that got played the most on my PlayStation 2. And also there was other, the RPG factory just kept on going. Final Fantasy 10, 10-2, there was and also, it was also, PlayStation 2, pretty much everybody's first DVD player. Everybody would get it plays DVDs too. So it was doing that, coming out of nowhere. It sold a ton. They continued the whole memory card thing, being able to save your data. And I think this is the point whenever the Xbox came out. I think the Xbox came out whenever the PlayStation 2 came out. That's what it was competing with. Or was it next? Yeah, I think the PlayStation 2 was going up against the regular Xbox. And I wasn't having none of that jazz. The Xbox came out and everybody's like, oh man, it's so cool. You can put your whole CD on there and listen to music. I'm like, hey man, I got a computer. Screw that. I admit, I used to go so hard against the Xbox. I used to diss it every chance I got. And it made it easy because the thing was like a huge suitcase on the middle of your floor. And the controller was the size of a brick that looked like it ate another brick. I mean, dude, it was huge. I played it. My brother-in-law had it. And it had some cool games. I mean, I remember playing Dead or Alive on it. I was like, this game is great. But there's also a PS2 version. So I ended up playing the PS2 version. And whatever. Dead to Rights was kind of cool. I just wasn't interested. I had my PS2. I was set in my ways. I was going. I was on the Sony train. I loved it. They're my boys. So played the heck out of my PlayStation 2. Went on PlayStation 3. Didn't pay $600 for it. I'll go ahead and tell you that. I ended up getting it when it got cheaper. I don't know how much, but I didn't get the version that plays PS2 games. Crap, man. It plays PS1 games, and my brother-in-law has the one that plays PS2 games. It was a 20 gig model, but he upgraded to a 60 gig. It's been a while. Man, that's the one thing I regret. See, that way I would still have access to all my games and all that. But PS3 came out. Didn't get a good start because of the whole $600 price tag. $600 for a console. And the games weren't that good starting out as well. It eventually kind of made it back, but of course, I got one. Didn't pay $600 for. I think I paid like $3 or something like that whenever it came out. Came down to that. Xbox was making the Xbox 360 then. Didn't have that. Was still on the hate train. Went all in on the PlayStation. Got one of those. Had it. Also, this is a quick throwback. Like, I was fixing to say, played God of War 3 on PlayStation 3. I can remember watching the trailer for that. And it was such an epic scale trailer because you were on the back of a Titan the whole time. Let me go back. PlayStation 2, God of War 1 and 2. Yes, indeed. Played those. Sadly, I completely missed the whole Metal Gear Solid, franchise. Didn't play it on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games, all of it. So I'm completely locked out of that series. I'd love to kind of get caught up on it and then see if I could still jump into 5, because I know that it's a pretty convoluted story because that's how Kojima does, but people seem to enjoy it. And I have 5 and Ground Zeroes. I tried to get into them, but they just weren't for me. Just not for me. But if I could get hooked somehow, then I'd love to. But at the moment, But PlayStation 3, it was my baby. That was my baby, man. And the fact that you were able to, you could put music on this one. Hold on a second. I know I have a computer. This is different. You were able to put music on it. You could put videos on it. You could put pictures on it. You were able to put themes on the background of it. It was just really cool. I mean, if the system I'm using is going to be able to do what the Xbox said it was going to do, then it's fine. I just didn't think that was a big deal at the time. I wasn't trying to hear all that. I was trying to play me some games. And that's what I did. Played my PlayStation 3. And I did end up getting an Xbox 360 later on, but I only got it to play games that I couldn't play on PlayStation. It wasn't my main at all. PlayStation's always been my main console of choice. I got me a 360 to play Lost Odyssey, which was a really cool RPG that You played a bunch of Immortals. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. If you haven't, go check it out. It's backwards compatible right now if you have an Xbox One or One X. It's a really cool game. Anyway, I got that, and I slowly ended up getting games for it. I didn't get games for it, but games would accumulate because my family, my wife and kids, it would want to play games like we ended up with the Connect, and they only play the Connect games. We became known as a gaming family because we've had almost every console or handheld or whatever, but as far as ones that related to me, that's what I'm referring to now. There are DSs, there are PSPs. I had a PSP. I brought it everywhere with me, everywhere. And then whenever they had the God of War games on PSP, I was like, oh man, what the crap? I have a Vita. I don't play it anymore, sadly. RIP Vita. I just can't even go back to it. But I have a Vita. I had a PSP. I did at one time own a DS because I used to use it to play all the Yu-Gi-Oh games. Whenever a new game would come out, I would get it on it, and that would be the only thing I'd play for it. So I did have those, but they don't have that big of an impact. Console gaming was what I'm really worried about. I'm not into PC gaming. That's just not me. But I got a PS3. I got a 360. Family is pretty much a family console. They got games for it. That's the only game I had on it was Lost Odyssey. I ended up getting rid of it. Oh yeah. I ended up getting rid of it. That's all I'm gonna say. So I had my PlayStation, and then PS4 came out. Got that. Xbox One, actually ended up getting that because there were 2 games I wanted to play. 3 games. One was Quantum Break, and I did play it, loved it. The other one was Sunset Overdrive, and sadly, I didn't like it. It just wasn't my bag. And there was a game that was going to come out called Scalebound, which got canceled, and that hurt. So after playing those 2 games, the main games that I wanted to play, because there's not really that many games on Xbox short of those. It's primarily known for shooters, and shooters aren't my thing. I suck at them. My reaction time is really bad, so it makes them usually not that fun. The only shooter I've ever been able to get into and liked was Destiny, and we see where that is right now. But yeah, had an Xbox One, sold it after Scalebound got canceled because there wasn't anything else I was looking forward to. Literally nothing else. And then Cuphead comes out. But I can play that on Steam, and that would probably be one game I would play on Steam. If I ever get around. If I were to play a game on PC, it would be Cuphead. That would be it. Nothing else. Got rid of my Xbox One. Still have my PS4. Nintendo Switch comes out, or Nintendo Switch gets announced. I don't want to have none of it because the launch titles are Breath of the Wild and a couple of other things that don't interest me. And pretty much anybody who gets it got Breath of the Wild. Once again, no Zelda games except for Zelda 2 and 5 or 10 minutes here or there. Never beat a Zelda game. Never played a Zelda game to completion at all. Didn't want it. Whenever Nintendo Switch did come out in March of 2017, it was getting good reviews. Breath of the Wild was getting awesome reviews. So I was like, okay, well, if it's that good, then I definitely want to play it, to experience the awesomeness. Got it. Didn't like it. Was playing that and Persona 5 at the same time. Wasn't working out. Dropped Breath of the Wild. Completed Persona. Took me 173 hours. Got done with that. Went back to Breath of the Wild. Realized that it wasn't the whole competing RPG thing. I just didn't like it at all. So I dropped it. Not me. So Nintendo Switch. Got one, of course, like I just said. Was playing it, and we're up to last year now. Played games as they came out. Splatoon, really good. Passed on ARMS. Mario Odyssey came out. Got it. Loved it. Amazing game. Xenoblade Chronicles came out this December. Played it, like I said. paused it for right now, and I guess here I am, currently playing Dragon Ball. Wait, did I say PS4? I did say PS4, right? Anyway, yes, my PS4. That is my new baby. I love it. It's the new hotness for me. It's selling like great. It's if I have to pick, that's what I'm going to play. Except for it depends on like games. It's hard now with the Switch and the portable aspect because I would have problems playing. If there was a game that came out on PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo and the Vita, I'm like, man, I wonder if it's on the Vita, then I could have it everywhere because I played my Vita and Persona 4 Golden was my jam. Like, definitely get that if you're still playing a Vita and you hadn't played it for some reason. But I would always think, like, man, I would love to play it on the Vita, but I don't know if I'll be able to see it that well or be able to read everything. And so I would usually just go for the PlayStation version. But with the Switch, the screen is big enough to where it's not that hard for me to read things. So I'm able to play a lot of things, the majority of things that are on the PlayStation and the Switch, on the Switch and not have a problem with it. So if a game usually has a Switch version, then I'm probably going to end up playing it on the Switch. But I think I know I was jumping all around with this. So let's see, like I said, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, great, loved it. Spread my crap. What am I talking about? All right, let's do this again. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy had that. Went got a Genesis. Missed out on GameCube. Well, 64 didn't play it. GameCube didn't have one. My girlfriend ended up getting one, and so it ended up into my girlfriend, who then girlfriend, now wife, got one. She was the one that was like, keeping Nintendo alive. I went the PlayStation route, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whenever the whole family aspect arrived, whenever the whole family aspect, became a thing, and I got married and had kids, we ended up doing the family thing. So we got a Wii. And then we got a Wii U. And then we got a Nintendo Switch, and my son has a Nintendo Switch as well. So, like I said before, we are a gaming family. We have owned every mainline console and portable that's existed. We might not have them all right now, but at one time we had them all. I still have my PS2, PS3, PS4, of course. I have my Wii U, and I have a Nintendo Switch. There are no Xbox consoles in the house because there's no reason to. But those are what I have. Like, my son has a PlayStation. PlayStation and Nintendo are the only ones that are left standing. That's what we have. Gaming family. Come a long way, man, and all the memories that I've had are great. All the great games. There's so many great games that I left out. Parasite Eve on PlayStation. I mentioned Jetmoto 2. Great. Kinetica on PlayStation 2. And something on PlayStation 3. Let me think. I said God of War 3. Heavenly Sword. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha, Street Fighter EX3 on PlayStation 2. So many games that I played. I said Brave Mr. Musashi. What else? I can't. There's so many. Like I said, the God of War games on PSP that I was able to take anywhere and everywhere. Persona 4 Golden on Vita. Games that just stuck out to me, man. Like, there's been so many games, and I've went through a lot of consoles, a lot of handhelds, had a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I'm grateful for being able to do so. I'm glad that I am where I am now, where we have access to good console games. The way the games are now and the way they've changed from where they've been is amazing. kids who see games these days, that's where they think the standard starts. And it's really cool to see kids that are interested in retro gaming of any kind, interested in the way things used to be, and can appreciate how far we've came from those to now. Like, man, games now, if you want to know about a game, you can look it up on the internet, you can see about it. We had magazines, and before that, we had nothing. We had The Wizard, the movie The Wizard. Yeah. A game would come out. You see like some screenshots in the magazine, maybe a little bit. You had that to go on, like I said, and then when it came out, as far as renting, you had the box. And make your best judgment. If you picked Mega Man 1 based on the box, well, if you picked Mega Man 1 despite seeing the box, then you're a very smart man or kid at the time, because the Mega Man box looked horrible. You had to really wanted to play that game in order to like say, you know what, I'm not going to go by the box. It looks great. So we had that, and we had magazines that came up, and then slowly TV shows brought us closer to we're able to see games played before we got a chance to get our hands on them. Then we worked our way into magazines with demo discs whenever PlayStation and the CD-based technology came out. Demo disc, demos were amazing. I remember playing demos over and over again of a game, and not even playing the game, like the demo to Intelligent Cube. I can't tell you how many times I played that, and I've never been able to find that game. It's one of the rarest games ever. You can find it on YouTube. I'm not YouTube, eBay, and I do want to try and get it. Like, that's such a big part. Like that, Parappa the Rapper, those two games were in the same demo. There was this snowboarding game that we would pass the controller around and see who could get the highest score on this demo, this one course. So many games with demos. Like, man, you played the demo of this, the demo of that. There were sometimes you would play the demo of a game and like it so much, but you wouldn't worry about getting the game because you had the demo. You know, you didn't need to. You just thought you didn't need the game. You'd end up playing it later. You may like it, you may not like it, but so much has changed. Worked our way up from demos to then when we got to the PlayStation 3, Xbox era, you know, online play and downloading demos to our console, not having to put a CD in or anything like that. Online play, online stores, digital versions of games. If you go back and talk to, like, you know, 5-7-year-old Moan, first of all, he'd be like, holy crap, who the heck are you? But like, just, I wouldn't even care. I would have to say, you know, go back to teenage me and tell me how gaming is going to change, because we're the generation, maybe a little bit earlier than us, but we're the generation who benefits the most from gaming. We've been there through the entire change of it. Like, you know, it went from 8-bit to the graphical powerhouses that we see now, the Uncharteds that we see and stuff like that. We've benefited most, and we can appreciate most how much gaming has changed and how much gaming has evolved from what it used to be. And it's great. I'm glad to be a part of it, man. I love video games. They're always going to be a part of my life until they can't be no more. So I'm glad you guys took the time to listen to me rant and rave and go in somewhat a chronological order and listen to my gaming history and where I went through games and stuff like that. But I really appreciate you guys watching. This has been episode 1 of Nearsighted Point of View. Definitely expect the next episode to come soon. You can follow me at Nearsighted Gamer, GAMR. I also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/NearsightedGamer. And if you're watching this and haven't liked, then go ahead and like it. It'll take like 2 seconds. I guess that's all I had to say. Thank you guys for watching. You're the greatest. And as always, be excellent to each other. See you, peoples.